Welcome back to Boring Build Friday. We're going to continue working on our 2019 Sierra Denali. Last time we got our front end on, I got it all lined up, we fixed our door so it opens and closes. Now it's time to start on the roof. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, link's up there, it'll get you caught up. Let's get going. So before we start ripping our roof off, we need to get some of the interior out. This is some of the dealer installed options, like a cargo tray underneath the rear seats. I kind of like these because they do bolt in. Some of the other ones have two-sided tape that hold them in, and they don't stay all that well. It uses the two front seat bolts to hold it in. So we'll unbolt this, and we'll just slide it out of here. Then we can pull out the floor liners. Also GM installed accessory. They fit better than the WeatherTechs, but still not worth the ridiculous price they charge for these things. So we'll pop them out of there, and we'll find our original floor mats that were underneath. Not sure why they left them there. I guess the tech at the dealer was in a big hurry to install the floor liners. So now we can unbolt the rest of our seats. There's a few 18mm bolts down there. Pull all those out of there. One for the seat belt. Then there's two 10mm that hold the two seats together. Since I'm trying to save my back, we'll take it apart and take these things out separately. We'll fish our seat belt out of there. Toss it out the back window. Then we can fold our seat up and lift it up. Pull it out of the tabs on the back of the cab. And take it out the door. Same thing on the passenger side. This one's a little easier since it's only about 40% of the rear seat. That's where the term 60-40 seats come from. Now we'll unbolt the bottom of our seat belts. Same thing on the passenger side. Start prying off the trim on the back of the cab. There's two outer pieces to cover up our C-pillar trim. You can disconnect the wires for the back window. These are for the rear defroster. We're going to be taking that out later, so we'll get them out of our way. There's a couple of little push pins. Push the centers in, not all the way in, or you'll lose them inside the back of the cab. Just push them in a little bit, and then the rest of the clip will pop out. Do the same thing on the other side. And we can pull our trim off the back of the cab. Pull the seatbelt cover off, and continue pulling on our trim. The go-to wiggle and pull method wasn't quite working, so we moved on to our secondary method, the pry and hope. So, we're going to pry this off and hope we don't break it. Looks like all that hoping paid off. Now we can pull our C-pillar trims out. There's one screw at the top. Just pop the cap off. And unbolt it. A little bit of wiggle and pull. And it comes off. Fish our seatbelt out of there. Move Mr. Spotty to an alternate location. And now we're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. We'll pop the sill plate off since our C-pillar trim goes underneath it. Make sure we didn't break anything. And we can snap our seat pillar trim off of there. Pop the little cap off and pull the screw out of the top. Pull the door gasket out so we can get our fingers back there. Fish our seatbelt out. We're going to go toss this in the box with all the rest of our trim pieces. Now the clamps on the back of the cab have little plastic liners, so when you slide the tabs in for the seat, they don't rattle. So we're going to pop those off. We're going to pop our little retainer off of there. Unbolt the ground for the rear window. And we're going to unbolt the rear window motor. We need to fish it out of here, because we do have to pull the back glass. I'm not looking forward to that. So with a little bit of weaseling, this motor comes out of that little hole. Hey look, I found something else to do so I don't have to pull the window out just yet. So we're going to pull our bead pillar trim off. In order to do that, we have to remove our seat belts. So we'll unbolt it from the bottom of the seat. Give it a good tug. That'll pull the little bezel out of the seat. And we'll slide the whole seat belt out of our seat. And pull the lower trim off. Just snaps in. Easy there, fella. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. The grab handles have two little caps. Just pop those off with our excessively long screwdriver. Two bolts inside. Unbolt those. There's one clip at the top. Pry that off of there. Fish our seatbelt out. Now on to the other side. Lift our seat up. There's a little cap on there you can take off if you want to, but if you lift the seat all the way up, you can expose the bolt. Pull our little bezel out of there. I'll pull our lower trim out. At least I didn't go flying across the truck this time. Remember, always use the excessively long screwdriver. Pop all of our clips off. Lose one of the clips in the B pillar. Looks like we just signed up for a game of hide and seek. And our other B pillar trim is out. See what else I can find to do to avoid that back window. Oh look, I found something. Pull the cover off the top of the dash in the front. This is why I take the windshield out. It's much easier. Just a bunch of clips, pop them out. There's the daylight sensor in the center. They just twist out. This one happened to fall out, so I didn't have to take it out. There's some wires under there that we need to expose. That's why we had to pull this out. I'll pull the side trim panel off the dash. We need to get to the wiring harness for the headliner. Goes back down there into Narnia. This is the worst job ever. And it seems every single one of these trucks I buy, I have to pull the headliner. So now we're up on the cowl. We'll disconnect some of the wires up on the top that are pretty easy to get to. This is why we had to pull that cover off. Get those out of the way. Before we go for the real struggle, the wires that go down behind the dash. Now these wires are put in before the dash, so when the headliner's in there, those are actually easy to get to. Once you put that pesky dash in the way, this job is horrible. Hopefully the next one, I don't have to pull the headliner. Or maybe I'll find a better way. Without a doubt, removing the wiring harness for the headliner is the worst part of this job. But it's over with. You didn't get to see it because there wasn't much to see. Although I did learn a new trick. If you take this cover off, you loosen the tube up here, you push it back. Gives you a slight bit more room in there. A little less swearing. So now we'll continue pulling our headliner out. Still better than pulling the back window, I guess. So they'll open up the little doors on the sun visor clips. Take the screw out of those. We'll pop the cover off that's over the sun visor screws. Slide that off of there. Now we can unscrew the sun visor, unplug it. Now we'll move on to the passenger side. Same thing. Unscrew our sun visor clip, unscrew our sun visor, unplug it, toss it on the dash. Now we're going to remove the third brake light. I usually avoid this because once you take these off, they like to leak. But I'm changing the roof, so I have no choice. Pull the two screws out and then pop it out of there. Sometimes you got to pry it a little bit. One plug and it's done. There was a little more damage that I actually didn't see on the back of the roof. Even more reason why it needed to be replaced and not repaired. So we'll pull the little trim pieces off on the side. It's easier to disengage the clips from the molding itself, leave them on the truck, and then take them off later. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Pop all the clips back off. And we're going to save these, because this molding going in the pile. I'll pull our grab handles off. Pull the little caps down and expose the bolts. Pull the caps down all the way. It actually holds the handle open. Unbolt them. Just give them a good yank. They'll come right off. Same thing on the front. And over on the driver's side. And our headliner is ready to drop down. Usually I'm replacing this because the side airbags went off. Not this time. So we'll reach up there, pop the clips off for the dome light in the back. It actually holds up the headliner. Then there's a couple clips in the back. You got to be careful because if you pull them, they will tear the little plastic pieces off the headliner. So you just get a long screwdriver in there and pop them off. Once you got all that done, you can slide the headliner out the front. Because we still haven't taken that back glass out. So we'll take our time. We don't want our headliner to fold and crease. So we'll just keep sliding it along the seats, trying to keep it flat. Somewhere along the line I took the overhead console out. Guess the video guy didn't think you needed to see that. I'll show you in the next one. Now we can pull our sunroof down. Disconnect all the drain tubes. There's one in each corner. They just slide off there. Sometimes they have zip ties on them. We'll unplug our motor and start unbolting it. I'll do a little yoga. Use our foot to hold it up. I call this "I don't want the sunroof to fall on me" pose. So we'll get it all unbolted and just take it down. and at this point decide what we're going to do with it. It's not going to go out the front. I guess we'll set it in the back seat. Probably should have ordered a pizza, so I got some help. Trying not to rip the interior. The owner of the truck will be really mad if I do. We'll just set it on the back seat, slide it out the side. Now we'll disconnect our antenna, a couple plugs. We don't even have to unbolt this one. The pole did it for us. So we'll just fish the wires out of there. Now I'll remove that trim piece on the top on the passenger side. Pop the clips off the molding, leave them on the truck. Then we'll pop all of our clips off and put them back in our molding. Now we need to remove the urethane that was left over from when we pulled our windshield out. Just take a razor blade, slide it along there. If you're like me, you're going to find the dullest razor blade in the shop. If you're one of those rich people that can afford new razor blades, you just drag it around on the concrete before you use it to dull it, just so you can experience what I go through every time I use a razor blade, even when it's brand new for some reason. Alright, we put it off long enough, and there's no avoiding it. This back window has to come out. So we use the pneumatic windshield knife on the side. We'll slide the other one across the bottom. The top we can get from the outside. And our glass is ready to come out. A little bit left in the corner. Let's cut it with our razor blade. Dull, of course. Grab our motor. And of course the wires for the defroster decided to snag themselves. So we gotta unhook those. And then we'll set the glass out of our way. Cut the rest of that urethane off of there that we didn't cut out when we cut the window out. We're taking all this off because we need to expose the spot welds so we know what to drill. Or grind. Whatever we're going to do. It has to be off there anyway before you put the new glass on. So now's a good time to do it. Looks like we're grinding. We're just going to grind off all of our welds and hold the top roof skin on. And no, I don't need a belt sander for this. This works just fine. I don't care what you've seen other people use. I'm building this one. Now we'll start grinding our spot welds off the sides. This is what that little trim piece actually covers up. We'll just keep working our way forward, grinding each weld as we go. So we'll start grinding all the welds across the windshield area. Once we get a few out of there, we're going to break them loose. It's hard to see where they were, so if you pry them up a little bit, you can kind of see where the next one is. If that method doesn't work, you pull out the grinder. You just grind off the rest of the urethane. Go over it real quick and it will pretty much leave any urethane or primer in the spot welds. They're like little black dots. Just draw out the black dots, roof skid should come off. If you grind all of it away, sometimes the welds are a little hard to find. So, just going to grind our black dots off. Once we got them ground off, stick our breaker in there, start hammering away. If you pry them up, a lot of times they'll pop off of there. Now we'll do the same thing across the back. It's nice when they pop right off. Just move down the line. Came off pretty easy. Doesn't always work that way. So there is some foam that glues the roof to the supports that run across. It's called Flutter Foam. It basically gives the roof some rigidity. So we'll just stick some welding wire in there, work it back and forth, cut through all that. It doesn't take much to cut through it. You can heat it up from the outside, but you're never sure if you got it all. This way, if you run the wire all the way through, you know you got everything. It'll fall right off. So there's two supports in the center, so we had to go around those. And this middle bow section, run the wire over the top, do the same thing. It has foam on both sides. Work our way across it. A lot of people had asked before if you could use windshield wire. That actually cuts the metal, so this doesn't really cut the metal, but it'll cut right through that foam stuff. Less damage. A little more work though. And our roof is separated there. One more section in the back. We'll feed our wire through. Run it all the way out the back. And start cutting away. Look at this guy, defying death. No gloves while using welding wire as a saw. I bet he wanted to be a stuntman when he grew up. And the roof is unglued. Now there are two bolts that bolt it in. So we'll unbolt those. And now we need to get rid of the glue. So we're going to heat it up. Put a little pressure on it. Heat it up a little more until you hear that magic pop. There's a little bit more in the back here. We will put the new structural bonding adhesive on when we put our new roof skin on. That off, and our roof skin's ready to come off. We just need to get these welds on the side loose. So to do that, I'm just going to stick a big pry bar in there and pry it up. Whatever welds we didn't get, we're going to get now. They're either going to break loose or tear off. One way or another, this roof skin is coming off. Just keep working our way back. You don't want to pry on the outside piece because it will dent it. So you just keep prying underneath and just lift up when you get a good start. Work our way forward, and this side's off. Lift it up and see if any of them will break loose. I got a few. The rest need a little more persuasion. We'll put the pry bar underneath the skin and push the skin down over it. That puts more pressure directly on the welds and usually pops them off, as opposed to just prying the skin up over the welds. I do have some duct tape across the top of that outside piece just to keep me from scratching it, because I don't want to paint it. Actually, the painting gnome doesn't want to paint it. So our roof skin is free. You know what we do with it. So that's what we're going to call it quits for this video. We got our old roof skin off, we got our interior out. Now it's time to put our new roof skin on. We'll do that next time. But it is a used roof skin, so we do need to get it off of our old roof without destroying it. Could be tricky. We'll find out. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Actually on Monday, for a bonus video. That's sure to offend some people. Sadly. I can't wait. See you soon.